It has been a trend for countries to diversify away from US dollars since last year amidst the heightened US-China tension and in light of the sanction on Russia after the Russia-Ukraine conflict. To recap, one of the highest profile sanctions led by US against Russia was the freezing of almost half of the Russia foreign reserve, which is about 300 billion US dollar, and the removal of Russian banks from SWIFT, an interbank messaging services that facilitates the international payments. Many countries are starting to realize that the US tiger could weaponize the US dollar if you pick the wrong side. And recently, due to the US debt ceiling issue, the Google search trends for de-dollarization surged 4 times to 5 times by late April compared to the past 12 months. Several currencies have been quoted as an alternative to US dollar, with Chinese yuan, also known as Renminbi, getting most of the highlights. So now, if you are holding US dollar or assets in US dollar, should you dispose of them and switch some to Renminbi? Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Ted from the Modern Reminder. Welcome to the market highlights. In this series, I will update the interesting event that happened recently and see how we can position our portfolio according to these events. The rise of Renminbi. China being the largest trade nation with total exports and imports of 6.3 trillion US dollar in 2022, its currency has indeed gained prominence in investment and trade on a bilateral basis with China and its trade partners. There's an upward trend in using Renminbi in China's cross-border payments and receipts, reaching 48.4% share, outpacing US dollar for the first time. However, this is only within China's own financial system, and the flows are likely to be bilateral basis. What does that mean? It means that more and more countries have opted for Renminbi only when they do business with China. They don't really use it when they do business with other countries, even less as a reserve. Let's talk about facts. From a global perspective, US dollar is still dominating the scene. Data from SWIFT shows that US dollar is still the main payment currency, more than 40% share, followed by Euro 33%, and the Renminbi shares is only 2.3%. And out of that 2.3%, more than 70% are due to transactions in Hong Kong, which is also a Chinese territory. The reality is that the current global payment and trade architecture for businesses such as the SWIFT networks that underpins the global financial system has largely been built around US dollar. It has become a moat to the US, and there are no alternatives when it comes to liquidity, debt, and access when it comes to US financial markets. US dollar is likely to dominate for at least next 10 years, if not longer. As a reminder, when Euro was launched in January 1999, it was widely regarded as a challenger to the US dollar. More than 20 years later today, Euro accounts for 33% of SWIFT payment, 1/5 of the international reserve, but it did not gain much adoption outside of Europe. Having said that, the erosion of US dollar dominance is happening, but very slowly. US Treasury data show that the holdings of US Treasury securities have declined consistently over the past few years among the major holders. While central banks continue to favor US dollar as their reserve currency, the decline in weightage is visible. US dollar share in global reserve is now at 58%, more than twice the next largest Euro, but it has declined from 63% 5 years ago and 73% in 2001. At the current rate of decline, it is possible for US dollar to drop below the psychological level of 50% in the next 5 to 10 years. It will be an interesting development for another currency to emerge as an alternative to US dollar rather than a replacement. An alternative currency would require similar liquidity, market breadth and depth, and the credibility, which is the hallmark of US dollar today. At this point, there's no credible challenger that possesses such characteristics, be it the Renminbi, Euro, Indian Rupee, or the Bitcoin. At the time of making this video, the US debt ceiling issue has not been resolved yet. I always say that the value of money and currency is intersubjective. It means that it is only valuable when we believe that it is. One of the key reasons for US dollar dominant role in global reserve currency is the trust that placed upon it, which includes the assumption of the stability of US government and the US dollar. If the US government does not handle the debt ceiling issue properly, a default, even a brief one, or another downgrade in credit rating could trigger a paradigm shift in US dollar. So what are the key takeaways from today's episode? The de-dollarization is greatly exaggerated. It is happening, but without a credible challenger, it is going to be slow. US dollar is likely going to dominate for the next 10 years. The news of de-dollarization that we read online is mostly about countries using non-traditional currency in their trade deals to facilitate the payments without having to convert into and out of US dollar. This is not likely to drive an emergence of a currency to rival the US dollar unless the trade volume is large enough, particularly in the case of China. But in the past 1 year, we see that the world is moving from the concept of free trade to trade protectionism. In this environment, China being an export-based economy, its currency, renminbi, will be facing difficulties to continue to gain prominence. So I don't see a point to hoard renminbi or any other currency for that matter. If I want to protect my US dollar portfolio from the slow erosion of US dollar dominance, I would rather invest a small portion in gold. Fun fact, the central bank's holdings of gold have surged, particularly in China and Russia, which were up 3.5 times and 6 times respectively since 2005. That is all for the market highlights of May 2023. If you want a more frequent and timely update, or if you have any question for us, you can always click the link to the Google form below. If you like this video, do the usual, like, share, subscribe. Until next time.